Hi, everybody. Welcome to this week's Communion and Connectedness as the Red Alert seeks to speak with folks on the ground in Israel to share their firsthand stories. Today, we have Sandy Shoshani, who is with Bad Chaim, and you may know her because we have been connected with her for, 15, 20 years with her wonderful ministry for life called Bad Chaim. But we asked Sandy to come on today to not just give us an update about what's happening with her ministry since October 7 and the new stresses that are on the nation and the people, but also to give us her firsthand account about her community and her family and just anything that we need to know so that we can pray and support our brothers and sisters in Israel. We also have Shelley Neese with us, our president, because 3 is always better than 2, right? Sandy, thank you for taking time out to speak with us today. And again, we do continue to pray for you and the entire region. Can you please remind our audience who you are and where you are? And then we can get into some of the specifics that you've been experiencing since October 7th.
Right. It feels like October 7th was a year ago. Honestly, it's so long, the last month. So as you said, Amy, I'm Sandy Shoshani. I'm the national director of what's called Be'ad Chaim, which simply means pro-life, Israel pro-life. We've existed since 1988. I'm not the founder. I joined Be'ad Chaim in 2005. My family lives in what's called Ma'ale Adumim, which is between Jerusalem and Jericho. So we are near the Dead Sea. We are not anywhere near Gaza or southern Israel, not at all. We're kind of northeast of Jerusalem. That being said, Israel is not a very big country at all. It's kind of like, I grew up in Massachusetts, which is 4 hours end to end. And, from where we're sitting near Jerusalem, it's 4 hours. Teilat, 4 hours up to Kiryat Shmona, which is the northern point. Israel is not a very big country. Israel's only about an hour going east-west, like we live really near Jordan. We live closer to Jordan than we do to Tel Aviv.
Wow.
So when we look at sunset, we're looking over at Jordan from our view. We have Oded and I, my husband Oded is a pastor in a Messianic congregation. We have 7 children and 3 boys and 4 girls. And 6 are married out of 7, and our 3 sons are serving in the army right now, and our son-in-law is serving in the army. 2 of our sons are in what's called the Army Spokesperson Program. They're doing media, and one is doing international news, one is speaking on behalf of the Navy to the Israeli press, and one of our sons is guarding what's called Gush Etzion, which is in your press called the territories. And as my son says about that area, he says, Mom, it's about as terrible as always. In other words, there's always action, but nobody talks about it. There's always something difficult happening and terror attacks and people trying to infiltrate. And there's always something tense in Israel, generally. And then our son-in-law is up on the northern border. God forbid that Hezbollah would do more than they're doing. And so we just pray that nothing up there will happen. One of our daughters lives up in the Golan Heights, she lives very near Syria. Right now, anything that's making trouble into Israel is coming up from the Lebanese border, not the Syrian border. But in any case, our daughter with 5 kids, she and her husband decided to move down to the Jerusalem area just to make sure that they're safe. They have 2 little babies. And obviously, if you're an American listening, you're thinking, what? You live just near the Syrian border. Of course, you're going to move. So that being said, our city is very safe because we're surrounded by Arabs and we're near the Dead Sea and not far from Jericho. So we feel very safe in that odd sense. Even though we're amidst Arabs, but there's no war here. Nobody's shooting at us. One of my daughters lives in the Tel Aviv area. She has a missile. Just a couple of missiles being shot at their home, their neighborhood about every night at about 9:15. And I asked her why at the same time. And it seems to be there's some kind of a pattern to where and when the missiles are being shot. Our team, Bad Chaim, is a national organization. So we have counselors all over the country. And the ones in Ashkelon, and Ashkelon, for those who don't know the map of Israel, although Amy, thank you, you're going to show a map, but Ashkelon is on the southern coastal region. And then, of course, it's not that far from Gaza. When I moved to Israel in 1979, I used to go down to Gaza because they have nice beaches. I'd go to restaurants. I say that with great grief because in the 1970s, 1980s, you could just go in and out of Gaza. I used to buy my wicker furniture down there, go to a restaurant. The Baptists had been the ones who built the hospital in Gaza, the first hospital. It was very peaceful, very easy. I had friends who lived in Gaza. And I'm just so sorry that Hamas has done what they've done and pretty much destroyed the civilian population down there. I think you may have seen today's news that Hamas has put their base, their weapons underneath a hospital there. Mm-hmm. I mean, can you imagine? They're using human shields, using hospitals. Hamas is going in and out using ambulances. Can you imagine? And then they're accusing Israel of bombing ambulances, but they're actually transporting the militia. They're terrorists using ambulances. I'm not a very political person. Ba'at Chaim, Israel Pro-Life, we help everybody. We help Palestinians, we help Jews, we help Arab Israelis, we help refugees from all over Africa. We literally help everybody. That we don't care who somebody is. If God has created them in his image, we help them. But it's just so sad what's happening now. So sad. I mean, Israel, they dropped 1.5 million flyers into Gaza telling people, please go. This is not the first time that they do that, by the way. Anytime Israel needs to attack to get Hamas out, they warn the civilian population. So what's happening here in Ashkelon, for example, my counselor who lives down there, I talked to her at length today. They've been without school for the last month. Her kids started Zoom school again today. And, she's pretty much living in what we call the bomb shelter down there. She has 3 kids. Her husband's in the army. And she said it's just so difficult. They don't have enough supplies there. They're kind of out of... They were out of various things. I said, would you like some baby wipes? A donor sent us today 1,000 packages of baby wipes. So I said, Yael, would baby wipes help? And, Shelley and Amy, I didn't think of this, but she said, Sandy, the people are not leaving the bomb shelter, so they can't wash their children. They can't shower. Oh, wow. So she said, baby wipes are going to be a lifesaver. Send what you can down here. Such a simple, I just didn't enter my mind. I mean, of course they need baby wipes. They can barely shower and bathe their kids. I mean, I'm not saying they always have missiles, but you're always on the alert. You're always, wait a minute, if I'm in the bathtub with my baby, is there going to be a missile and an alarm? And am I going to have to run with a wet baby? And some of the people don't have what we call sheltered room in their house. They have to go outside to the bomb shelter. So it's pretty complicated. So we've sent through other nonprofits also diapers down there. I just asked her to go down and buy 1,000 shekels worth, like $250 worth of stuff for the mom she's helping. Some more diapers, some more, whatever she needed, formula, whatever. I told her, I'll just have what you need. She saw on the news the other day that one of her neighbors, a woman who's 5 months pregnant with a 2-year-old, the husband was kidnapped from that rock party, the party where...
The Nova, right.
The Nova party where over 200 young adults were killed. So this particular woman's husband, his name is Alex. And I say it because he really needs prayer. Alex was working at the bar there. He's 32. So he was working and he was kidnapped. I mean, Americans are watching the news and they're thinking, Israel should this, Israel shouldn't that. But let me ask you a question. If you were 5 months pregnant with a 2-year-old and your husband was kidnapped into Gaza for no particular reason, what you want to do? I mean, can you imagine this poor woman? So of course we're offering her help. I mean, those of you who know our organization know that we basically finance a woman's baby for a full year. We offer a bed, stroller, bathtub, bed sheets when the baby's born, and then we give her a monthly gift card worth about $100 every month for a year. So right now, I'm really happy to say, and I'm trusting God for the finances, but we've done that for a lot more women, and we're doubling the cards for those who don't have any income, and we're giving it to some of the women even when they're just pregnant because people don't have any money. For example, she was telling me today that some of the teachers are not getting any income because there's been no school. And if you don't have tenure, you're on what's called unpaid leave and you're not getting paid. And the government, Social Security, is supposed to pay, but they haven't paid yet. Okay, what does that mean for a mother who has to pay her rent and buy diapers? Down in Eilat, I don't know if people would even know this from your media, but 60,000 Israelis who lost their homes or had to move because of missiles are down in Eilat. The normal population is about 60,000. Right now, the population down there has swelled to 120,000. And most of the people, just the hotels all over Israel are filled with Israelis, displaced Israelis. So down there, for example, we spoke to the welfare department and they had a couple of hundred women who really had no money. So we sent them gift cards to be able to buy diapers, formula, whatever they need for their babies. This kind of basic thing, sending baby wipes, sending diapers, sending gift cards, whatever you can do to help somebody to be able to make it. I think some of you have read our newsletter that on the first day of the war, people don't realize this either, but a lot of the people who've been killed or kidnapped are not Jewish. There were 19 Bedouin. Bedouin are kind of nomadic peoples that speak Arabic. Not kidnapped, some were kidnapped, but a lot were murdered on the first day of the war. And one of our moms with 9 children was killed on the first day of the war. You don't realize what's really happening here. It's so easy to talk politics and protest, and I don't know, people in America do not know the facts, but just, I watched the news about Maine with that terrible man who killed so many people. And I know people were outraged, and you should be outraged, but imagine that hundreds of times worse. I mean, 1,400 Israelis murdered, 240. We're talking normal Israelis. And a lot of those, you can only imagine, some of the people kidnapped were actually peace workers. The people down on the Gaza border are people who build bridges with the Arabs, with the Palestinians. It's unbelievable. I can't imagine. I try not to imagine being kidnapped now for a month. People of all ages, 10-month-old babies and 85-year-old women. And you're thinking, yesterday I read about an 8-year-old girl who was at a sleepover with her friend who was kidnapped. Oh my gosh, her father was in tears on the news. My husband told me, don't watch. It's too sad. I was crying in bed, but I think, how can we not watch? Because we have to be in prayer. I just saw a soldier today who was saying on the internet, we're fighting the battle in the field, but you're fighting the battle with prayer. Thank you for praying. What can we do? We can supply, we can encourage. People are volunteering now, doing I volunteered last week teaching at a school. I have a teaching certificate where the teachers are in the army or unavailable, or, people are doing what they can. My daughter's driving around different volunteers to provide food for the ones that don't have food. Everybody's doing what they can do because it's just a really sad, difficult time. There are some good things, more prayer, more unity, more compassion. I know in America you go around saying, Happy New Year, Merry Christmas, and everybody's happy around the end of the year. And not that people are happy now, but there is that spirit of, I care about you. I care about you. I care about one another. My staff is 30 people, by the way. And a lot of our staff either have sons in the army, daughters in the army, husbands in the army. So we also need prayer, because they were saying today as we prayed together, how can we give if we're not filled up ourselves? So there's a lot of challenges here. I don't know if you have any questions.
So your staff just immediately, you went from, in one day, almost every staff member having their own personal traumas, and they're also doing the work of ministry that you guys do. I just can't imagine how you continue to give other than the strength of the Lord.
Right. Super loving. One of our counselor in Beersheba, She's unbelievable. She has 5 kids and she's a widow. She's a young woman. She was widowed when she was in her 30s. This gal has a 10-year-old and they don't have a bomb shelter. They have to run across the street with her mother, who broke a leg last year when there were bombs because she was running into the bomb shelter. So they don't run very fast. And this woman received hundreds of diapers on her own, how do you say in English, her own porch to give to the ladies that she serves in that community. I mean, it's unbelievable, the kindness and the mercy and the courage of these people down there that are spending their days in the bomb shelters. They're just, this particular counselor, by the way, her daughter is serving in the hospital in Beersheba. And you might think that's easy, but imagine her daughter comes home and she says, Mom, I saw this person wounded. Mom, I saw this soldier lose an eye. Mom, I saw this. Mom, I saw that. And this kid is 18 years old. It just, it's just so hard on the heart of these young soldiers to see these things. So on many levels, there's just a lot of pain.
Oh, I know that Soroka Hospital is where my husband trained for medical school. So I know the grounds of that hospital really well, the cafeteria, the people who work in the coffee shops. So are there refugees from southern Israel in the Dead Sea area where you are? I had understood that some of those hotels by the Dead Sea had also taken on southern Israelis.
Right. I'm not that close to the southern Dead Sea, though. The hotel area is about an hour from my home. I'm much closer to Jerusalem.
Okay.
We're northern Dead Sea. That's southern Dead Sea. But yes, the hotels then are full. The hotels in Tiberias are full. Basically, the hotels in Netanya, the hotels in the whole country, except for in the regions where there are a lot of missiles, are full. People have moved. People in Yad HaShmona, the Messianic Moshav settlement, whatever you want to call it, there's about 180. I think she said maybe 85 families or something are there. And I don't know if people know, but the Messianic organizations have kind of pulled together to do amazing work. So you have various organizations who've set up kind of a camp in what's called a Baptist village, and they're just helping people all over the country in the various hotels.
Oh, wow. I hadn't known that. How is your congregation doing? I mean, I'm sure there's lots of personal stories there too.
So our congregation, we have begun to pray every single day on Zoom together. We used to pray bi-weekly. Now we're praying every single morning for an hour. And when we have our congregational meeting on the Shabbat, on the Sabbath, we spend the entire meeting praying. My husband preaches for about 5 minutes, and then we break up into little groups and pray. I personally love the kids, so I sit with the kids and I pray with all the children, which is a wonderful thing to do. And the kids are just, God, give the soldiers courage. God, let them not give up. God, let them not be too tired. I've been teaching them about angels. We can't forget that there are angels. It says he will charge his angels over to take care of you. We have to remember that God has a greater army than the enemy. Also, our congregation, we have a lot of young couples, and a lot of the young husbands are in the army right now. So we do our best. I just try to call the young moms, and then, of course, there's also the grandparents, the people my age who have their sons. One of the families has 7 people in their family in the army. Their daughters, their son-in-laws, their sons, everybody's in the army somewhere. And it's painful. You have to really be brave not to fall into fear, not to be afraid, not to fear for your kids. I know my son-in-law, he's a super brave guy up on the northern border. And at first I said, I'm afraid for you. And then I said, no. And I sent him a verse, and I said, God will keep his angels watching you. He will surround you with his angels, and we will not fear. Because my daughter's pregnant. It's not nice to have your husband in the army when you're pregnant, So.
You mentioned that where you live, there's a significant Arab population. When you're just walking around in your community and just communing with your neighbors, is there any sense of anxiety? Is there any issues of trust? I know that we had our guest last week said that he wrestled with trusting some of his neighbors. Are you feeling any of that, or is there I don't know, just are you able to comment on
No,
that?
that's a good question. That's a good question. First of all, because we live also in what's called the West Bank. See, people don't know this either. The Palestinians are allowed to work in our community.
Mm-hmm.
So we have had Palestinians working in our community forever. And they're our friends. I mean, it's the vegetable guy in my local shop, and I talk to him all the time. And it's the butcher, and I mean, we like these people. They're part of our community. And I personally, also because of the pro-life, where we're helping everybody, including Palestinians, I don't have any animosity or fear. I just pity them in a way. I mean, they're poor. And right now, because of the war, because of what Hamas has done to them, they're not allowed to work in our community, which means they're losing income. No Palestinians can come in right now. You know, Israel had many, many people from Gaza working in Israel in the south.
Mm-hmm.
They're not allowed in. Imagine they're losing all their economy also. I mean, what a mess. We are not an apartheid state. We are not. And I'm sure, Shelley, I guess you've been to the Jerusalem Zoo. Maybe you know. It's one of my favorite, how can I call it, cross-cultural places to go, because you see the ultra-Orthodox with their black coats, and you see tons of Arabs and the seculars. You know, I go in my shorts and my tank top, you know, and then you have the Orthodox and you have the Arabs covered up, and you're like, nobody minds. It's not that kind of society. I take the train, the light rail into work every day. Everybody's on that train. And I don't feel afraid. I mean, I guess I could if I saw somebody suspicious, of course. But I mean, what I want to say is the normal routine of our lives is very cross-cultural. It's a mix of people. And most people just want peace. And I pray to God that he would destroy the terrorists, the Hamas, that want to bring suffering to the Arabs. They are not here to bring peace. They are here to destroy Israel. They are causing trouble because they want the annihilation of Israel. And that when the Americans and all over the world, people are yelling from the river to the sea, they're not saying free Palestine. They're saying destroy Israel. Mm-hmm. Where would they have us go? Where would they have us go? As Golda Meir said, we win. We have to win because we have nowhere else to go.
That's right.
Yeah.
Well, thank you for sharing that insight. I think a lot of folks in America, well, I mean, not necessarily in our network, but maybe so, you know, that idea of, you know, why the Palestinian people, the Arab people in either Gaza or the Judea and Samaria, why do they even suffer? You know, the narrative in our news and in our education is that it's Israel's fault, but in fact, it is not. It is Hamas and Fatah and the terrorists, and that's the free Palestine. Really, in its truest essence, means free those people from their terrorist leaders. And
that's right.
Israel would be their best friend in getting that accomplished. If we looked at it in its truest form, but we're battling that narrative on our side, and I don't know if you want to comment on that or what you're hearing from your friends and family in the States, but you know, our mission here at the Jerusalem Connection is to make sure that the reality of what is the Israeli society and its Jewish and non-Jewish inhabitants is for peace and to live side by side together. And
that's right.
Always been the moral undercurrent and fiber. We just need the rest of the world to see that. So we appreciate your words on how your community does still trust each other. And that's encouraging.
And Zewe, you're unique because you really do represent a dozen universes, you know, just as a mother, as a grandmother, as a, you know, the leader of a large staff, as a member of a Messianic congregation. Like, so it really was wonderful to hear from you because you do represent a big voice in Israel and so many desperate voices as well. And we're praying for the mothers that are dependent on your organization. And I'm sure Amy will include in our show notes just how we can continue to support you and as you discover more specific needs, because it is true that all the headlines are about how Palestinian mothers and children are suffering, and our hearts go out to that cause. But a lot of what you narrated was, and also because it's your heart, was exactly how Israeli women and children are suffering. I don't want to be in a hotel room with my children, in a one-room hotel room.
Without your property, without your job, without your stuff, without your toys.
Without their schooling, exactly.
Nothing.
So
No
I really
school,
appreciate
nothing.
that narrative of how women and children are suffering in Israel right now, too.
Thank you.
Well, Sandy, we are going to continue to pray for you, all of your family members, your community, your ministry, and also continue in our efforts to support you with material resources. And we would love to have you back, soon when it's convenient, so you can continue to share with us firsthand what's going on in Israel and with the people. We so appreciate your insights and your perspectives. And thank you again. I'm Israel Chaim. How do I say it?
Yeah. I'm Israel Chai.
I'm always so afraid of
Israel lives.
Yeah.
I'm Israel Chai. Good job.
I'm Israel
Chai.
Chai. People of Israel lives. Thank you.
Thanks
for the support.